Hey, I'm Chris, and thank you for joining us on the Southwest Florida Business Podcast. I'm your host, and I'm joined by Molly and Howard from Chris-Tel Construction. So they're a company that's based out of Fort Myers. They've been around for about 33 years now. And the reason why I reached out to them is I saw that they had completed the construction project for the roadwork on Fort Myers Beach, and they had done so about 5.5 years ahead of schedule. So I reached out, we ended up talking, and they came into the studio, and it was really interesting to learn about the process of how they approach a job like this. It's no easy feat to tear up the road on Fort Myers Beach, which is super heavily populated, tons of traffic, lots of businesses. And it was really cool to see how they plan out the whole thing and then how they break it down. And then we kind of get a little bit into the nitty-gritty of how they worked with the businesses. They worked with the town. They work with their project managers on like a ground level to make this stuff work, to keep getting better each time they start a new section. It's very interesting to learn. As a business owner, I'm definitely going to take some of these lessons and try to apply them to my own business. But I think in addition to the projects that they've worked on, one of the really cool things to talk about on this was the way that they view their customers and the way that they view their employees. I mean, just listen to how they really think about it. I mean, there's not a lot of companies that actually think this way in terms of taking care of your employees, taking care of your customers. It's really a refreshing approach to this. And maybe it's an old school approach, but I like it better. And I mean, based on the fact that they just got 5 new huge construction projects this month alone from mostly repeat customers, I would say they're probably doing something right. So I hope you guys learn a lot from this. I know I certainly did, and they are hiring. So make sure that you reach out if you or somebody you know is interested in working there, or you know somebody that's from out of state, or whatever it may be. Get in touch with them, find out more. It seems like a great company to work with, and I'm excited to share this episode with you. So without further ado, enjoy. This episode is brought to you by Southwest Florida Podcast. If you're a business in Southwest Florida and you want to use a podcast to grow your business, scan the QR code on your screen or visit the link in the show notes at www.swflpodcast.com. Enjoy the show.
You know, Estero Boulevard is it's an intriguing project because of the way it lays out, right? But probably only about 25 or 30% of our work is horizontal work. The rest of it's all vertical construction.
Okay.
So we do all kinds of vertical stuff, and that'll be for FGCU, the school district, local municipalities.
Private clients.
Oh, yeah. Tons of it for different private clients. So all of the different type of buildings or structures, I mean, you know, pump houses, right, to move wastewater or fresh, you know, domestic water.
Okay.
There's just all kind of different related construction projects that anybody interested in our industry, you know, they kind of get labeled and or branded in their head maybe of what they think construction is. You go to a college and get a construction management degree. Typically, they are training and teaching project managers.
Yeah.
There are so many other roles in construction and construction companies other than that. Like we have our own in-house BIM modeling, right? So if you're into computers and you understand architecture, construction companies need BIM modelers.
Yeah.
If you're a process-based logical thinker, we need full-time construction schedulers. That's not done on a whiteboard anymore. You know,
Yeah.
It's all different scheduling programs. So then, yes, we need project managers and project engineers, but there's also a whole nother vertical chain of command on a job site that goes from, an intern to an engineer to an assistant superintendent, senior, super one, super two, senior, all the way up to a very seasoned, experienced guys that are running a project like the Big Dig, or they did the tunnel over in Miami coming out of to bring the freight from the terminal onto the mainland. Our director of operations was one of the project managers on that. So there's all kinds of really interesting jobs in construction that a university that says, oh, I'll get a construction management degree. Most of those schools, like UF School, used to be called the Rinker School, may still be, they were trying to grow and create project managers that were immediately snapped up by the Lennars and the GLs and all of those home builders.
Sure.
There's so much more to construction than just, track homes.
Yeah. Well,
regardless of the level.
Since we're rolling on this, let's dig into this. And I do want to ask you guys about the Fort Myers Beach project. But since we're talking about these other types of vertical projects, Fort Myers Beach is horizontal project. Do I have that right?
Yeah.
All right. So these other kind of projects, I mean, you just touched on some of them there, but what are some of the other possibilities that come with these types of projects? Like, what are you guys working on as well?
Well, I mean, we're getting ready to start a big renovation for Fort Myers Technical College, right? It's owned by the Lee County School District.
Okay.
And it's a trade program. The entire campus is based on trade skills.
Okay.
So we're going to do renovations and a new addition on that campus for the school district. So, those kind of projects, to us being in the industry, have a special place that, we admire because that's what we do.
Yeah.
But you've also got projects like the Oaks and Lehigh Park. That's a big mix of civil, horizontal, and vertical construction. So without all that civil at the forefront of the project, none of the vertical can take place. So we've got, a larger team on those projects, specifically the Oaks, which has already started. That's a very large portion of civil. And once that's done, then the vertical kind of comes, they work hand in hand. And then you've got Lehigh Acres Park, which is Lee County School District, Lee County government. And that is a large civil, but also some smaller verticals. So the fact that we have those two components in our portfolio and in our wheelhouse, those projects are perfect for our firm because we can do them both very well. We have skilled guys on the field that know exactly what needs to be done. Even though it's not a roadway per se,
Sure.
It's still the same type of civil work that you need in order to support this vertical construction project with some roads, access roads and whatnot involved. So those two projects, I think are pretty good for our firm because it shows our skill set. We've also got a couple of multifamilies that we're looking at. Same thing. You've got those civil components that take place before the vertical is done. So that skill set allows for our firm to be very versatile, whether it's just strictly horizontal for like a continuing contract or a government entity, and vertical for both private and public. It just kind of meshes well. I know the city of Fort Myers really, really likes us on their horizontal projects because we've done them on time, under budget, without any kind of real challenges or mistakes, quite frankly. Some of the other firms that may not have done those before, they trip up sometimes. They've never done it. So it's a learning process for everybody. But we've kind of got the skill set that just people look at and say, yep, they can do it. I know they can.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, didn't you guys get the Fort Myers Beach project done like way ahead of schedule?
5.5 years earlier than originally was intended. That project was supposed to be 6 phases, 2 years per phase, 12 years. The county advanced some design funding so that the design could get advanced, which shortened the duration of the entire job to 6.5 years instead of 12.
Wow.
So cut 5.5 years off of the construction on the beach. That would have, number one, it would have cost a lot more. I mean, if you're following anything in construction right now, the pricing trend's going up, not down.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine 2 years from now what that escalation cost would have been that the county and quite frankly the taxpayer, and a lot of that was funded through gas tax and stuff like that, but it's money saved.
Not to mention the availability of the materials.
Yeah.
That would have been a huge delay.
Yeah.
So thankfully we got it done before any of that was a factor.
Sure.
Supply chain issues just started to come into play toward the end of that project.
Okay.
There's serious supply chain issues right now
Yeah.
in our industry.
I would bet. And I want to ask you about that, but I also want to ask you, how come you guys can get this done in 5.5 years ahead of schedule? And in New York, where I grew up, there's a road that's been under construction since my dad was a kid. How come those two things exist?
Well, I don't know the particulars of the one that where you're from. Sounds like the I-4 project that goes forever, but
Or downtown Pittsburgh, one of the two.
in this particular job, there was a series of things that had to occur, right? They knew they needed a new water line. They knew they needed a new sewer line. They knew they needed gas lines on part of it. Florida Power and Light, which is an electric provider on the beach, knew that they needed to harden all of the electrical grid down there. So they took this construction opportunity to do all of that at one time.
Okay.
So all of that had been in the planning. The late Commissioner Kiker started that process, or was instrumental in it beginning, over 10 years ago. He became the mayor of the city of Fort Myers Beach. He was on the council before that. He became county commissioner for that district after that, and really was a champion for that project. But it didn't start, it was a snowball. It started little, got bigger, then it gets into a capital program for dollars. It gets in the design dollars, and then it moves on. So it was in design and planning for probably a decade before a shovel ever went in the ground. And then it all had to be designed, and it all had to be construction sequenced, and it had to be budgeted accordingly. And that's one of the single reasons it got advanced the quickest is the county made financial arrangements to be able to fund it much faster than the approved capital budget at the time when they started. So the town had to get, they were responsible for the water line, the town of Fort Myers Beach. So they had to do that. And then we had to get Comcast to get all their fiber, because there's all new fiber now.
Okay.
Every utility on that beach, main, large scale utility, is now new. Much of that was 50 years or older.
Got it.
As we would try to locate where these pipes were, they use a system called ground penetrating radar, which works really well if the ground is dry. But down there, the water table's so high that it doesn't pick it up as clear as it would if the ground was dry. So we tried to do ground penetrating radar for the most part, but then we also would do what's called potholing, where we pothole all the intersections and look for the actual pipes.
Okay.
We did that for the design team as they were designing, so that they would understand where the existing lines really were, as opposed to where they thought they might be, or where an as-built drawing showed them.
Sure.
So we tried to locate all those, and we still found a few conflicts along the way and got it done.
Yeah.
Worked around it as you found it.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you would find when you go in to do these assessments? What are some of the unexpected things that you find and then have to work around?
Well, you find pipes where you didn't think there were pipes, and then you have to figure out what they're for. Are they live? What do they feed? Where do they feed from? What do they feed to? If they weren't, okay, we could just abandon them. Years ago, they used to use some hazardous material in pipes, so we couldn't disturb those pipes. So we had to work around if we found any of that. You can't disturb it, so we had to do our utilities in and around it, and not damage any of that, and
Sure.
put all our stuff in and keep going. But there were conflicts. To avoid a bunch of the conflicts, we did what's called directional drills, to where if you're running a water line, you see the big black, almost looks like a great big black water hose laying on the side of the road.
Sure.
Okay, you run a long drill bit down, and then you pull that piping back down through. So what that avoids is the open cut from an excavator. So as long as you're drilling underneath everything that's there, you can pull all that pipe in. There's no way you can cut anything, because you're below it, and then you're pulling your line in, and it's done. So we did a bunch of that to avoid open cuts in areas that were congested around intersections. We would do directional drills and stuff like that.
Got it. Okay. So when you're planning this stuff out, at what point in the process does that come into play, where you start to drill these holes, look for this stuff. Is this after you know the project is going to happen and it's an assessment phase, or is this beforehand in that 10-year lead-up phase? Like, what does it look like to lead up to starting to dig,
right,
breaking ground?
Well, early on, it's all in a, you go back 10 years, right? It's all somebody's idea, and then does the municipality have the will to do it? Okay, like in Lee County, they've got an excellent DOT and utilities team in-house at Lee County. They may come up with some initial budgets themselves to get it on the CIP plan that gets approved years and years in advance. And then they start to select project managers and engineers and all of the things related to that. So in this case, Lee County decided, because of the complexity, to do construction management process, which they do a lot on vertical buildings. They hadn't done it so much with horizontal type work, but this needed so much coordination. They wanted to do that on this one. So they got us hired early, and we worked with the design team. And basically anything that they needed or had questions on, or that we knew of areas of conflict or maybe a challenging spot, we would say, hey, let's go check this, let's check that. And we worked as a team to make it happen. So, you hear horror stories all the time about, road projects are in litigation, or road projects are late, and road projects are over budget. That project didn't have any of that. It didn't have litigation. It was early, and it was under budget.
Yeah. You started laughing when he said that.
Well, it's just because he's right. So many times you'll go to certain areas of the country and it's like, my goodness, are they ever going to get this done? But you never know if there's politics behind it, if there's funding behind it, if there's, just poor design. There's things, obviously, we started in segment 1, which is down towards Times Square, that Crescent Street, that way, that first mile. And that was a 50-foot right away from one side to another. And that is a very tight area. And not only was the other firm doing the water line ahead of us, we had, our firm doing our utilities, and then you've got CenturyLink, TECO Gas, FPL. You've got all these different people you're coordinating and orchestrating this schedule with in a 50-foot right-of-way during the Olympics, during season, during spring break, during summer, during hurricanes, all of the things. So it was a very coordinated effort. And then once segment 1 was done, of course, there's lessons learned. Of course, there's things that we were like, well, we need to change that because it didn't work so well here, or it didn't work as well as we wanted to, or that they thought it would work. So that way in segments 2 through whatever, we would make those changes and upgrade and learn those lessons and incorporate those ideas and lessons into that. And the engineer was right, with us the whole time because they saw it as well. So us being boots on the ground, they design it conceptually and think it's probably going to work. All the things are, they're smart enough to do that. But when push comes to shove and you're standing there, in a rainstorm and you're trying to make sure that it's draining properly and you see one thing you could do better to make it drain faster, well, sure, you're going to do that on segment 2, and down the way. Plus the right way got a little wider, so it's made it a little easier. But the town was very cooperative. The county was very cooperative. They knew it was a very challenging I've heard, folks from Lee County say this is the most challenging we've ever done. This is the most, we've ever done in Lee County, because it is. It's one way in and one way out of that island.
Yeah.
And everybody and their brother wants to come down, and, the traffic is already bad. Yeah. Then you add construction to it. So we did our best to maintain two-way traffic. Because one-way traffic is just a nightmare on the beach. We added more crosswalks. I don't know if that's really helping or not, but we did add those. But those types of things that you look at and do and consider, it took a CM, not a hard bid, because when you're hard bidding, you're getting the lowest guy, and you don't know what capacity, what capabilities, what relationships they've got. When you're doing that CMAR, they're managing and taking that, they're managing all of that, taking on all of that team coordination. The project manager we actually had on there was great. He had to coordinate with all these other entities that were not contracted with us. They were contracted either with the town or the county directly. So did they really have to listen to us? No, we weren't. They weren't our subcontractor.
Sure.
But we had to work in conjunction with them the entire way, because if we didn't, it just wasn't going to work. Because the worst thing you could do is, put this beautiful new cinder lane, trench drain, or this beautiful asphalt or sidewalk, and then a month later, here comes Century dinging it all up, and it's like, well, hold time out, and then the residents down there, they're like, what's going on? This was beautiful, and now you're messing it up again, and no one really knew what contractor was with who. So, that in and of itself was a challenge. The county's public information officer did her job is to try and communicate that, coordinate that, get that out there. But, once a rumor starts, it is. And so you have to kind of combat that. And our guys did a great job on the ground in the field, answering the questions, talking with the residents, because they're curious. Either they live there, they're visiting there, their parents live there, what have you. And they want to know what in the heck's going on. And so it was a very big team effort. But again, a construction manager was the right call that the county made for that job. A hard bid, firm from, the East Coast. It would never have worked as well. And I think that was, the county knew that. And so in doing that process, just made it that much better. And then again, the funding that the commissioners kind of voted on to get that done faster. 6.5 years was long enough. We were in front of these businesses and these people for 6.5 years. And, we did what we could, but it was what it was. And I think it turned out great. I was just down there yesterday and Saturday. So every time I drive by, it's just, it looks fantastic.
Yeah. It's got to be a feeling of pride when you drive down there.
It was a long 6 miles. I mean, you think 6 miles, it doesn't take you that long to drive 6 miles. But if you're doing that day in and day out in that small right of way, and then it gets a little bit wider, but then you've got businesses, residents, big entities like a Publix, the fire estate, all these things, the trash, the mail, the ambulances, the fire trucks, the school buses on that small road, one way in and one way out. I mean, you've got to just coordinate with everything. So it was a very, very difficult coordination job that, I think we got done in a way that the county, I think, was just blown away. So
Yeah, I mean, it's something even like 6 miles, like you said, doesn't take very long to drive, but the monumental effort it takes to build something like that, it's pretty tremendous. I mean, well, and it's cool hearing this process because I never really thought of it this way, but you had 6 phases, and then because of the approach that you guys took, it was more, hey, here's the 6 phases. We have a pretty good idea of what this is going to be like, but once it comes down to the ground level, it's a lot more really ground game and ground coordination of, all right, we're chunking this out and now we're starting to work on this, keeping tabs on what's happening. We're observing what we did well, what went wrong, how we can improve that. And then basically, all right, we wrap up this section, onto the next section, apply those same things. Then you run into the next section of issues. And so it just gets... And
it was interesting. 1 and 2 were separate. So segment 1, segment 2, and then we combined segments 3 and 4, and we combined segments 5 and 6.
Okay.
Part of the reason we did that is that and the design was a little different. The funding was there for both.
Okay.
The design was a little bit different in the last 5 and 6 as far as the centerline drain went, just because the right-of-way was so much bigger. And the road was a little different. So it was those types of things, made it easier. But like I said, the commissioners really stepped up and got that funding to be secured faster than it would have been. And that was probably the key element in us being able to, while we're building, they're designing. So it's not like design, build, design. I mean, it was just so much faster.
Sure. And if you think about some of the delays that aren't construction related that affected us, right? Florida Power and Light doing a hardening program. So they're upgrading all the electrical infrastructure on the beach, except we had a tropical storm and 2 named hurricanes during that period of time. So everybody knows what happens when FPL has a hurricane, right? They all stage and they go where the power's out, rightly so. But what that meant for us was 0 FPL construction crews.
Nobody down there.
Nobody there working. So if you can't move your power pole, I can't put a road where it sits, right? So it was that. And then, you heard Molly mention the Olympics. Well, most people, why does that affect you? Well, CenturyLink that year, happened to be the sponsor of the Olympics. And they said, since we're paying to sponsor the Olympics, no outages during that period of time. So for the entire period of the Olympics,
nobody worked.
We will not move a line.
Could not
After
risk
the Olympics,
having an outage.
We will take outages and we will commence construction. But in the early planning of that, you don't know that's going to occur. You sure don't know there's hurricanes. So we worked around all those items too and worked through it all.
Yeah.
Even down to, hey, what day is trash day? And I have all this sidewalk formed in front of your house. We'll come get your trash, set it out by the road. Trash truck comes by and grabs it. We'll bring it back up. Mail, right? We have to move the mailboxes out of the right of way to do our work. Okay, here's your mail. We've reset your mailbox over here. Okay, we've moved it back now that the sidewalk's done. For every resident up and down that beach.
Fire trucks, you never know when an emergency is
Everybody.
going to happen. Ambulance, the school buses, you know those, but
Right.
you don't know when an emergency is going to happen. An ambulance has to get through that, stuck traffic. I mean, you just have to make. We had flaggers and stuff that were very helpful, but we had to make it work. And I said it was a very coordinated, orchestrated effort with the town, the county, and all those utilities, as well as both of our teams.
And the businesses. I mean, we were
the businesses
coordinating
and the residents.
food deliveries to restaurants and altering the time of day they got those so that we could get all of their food and beverages inside their businesses prior to our construction crews being in front of those businesses and cutting off access during the day. So if we're pouring concrete at 10 o'clock, I got to make sure, all the sandwich meat and all the Budweiser's inside the building before that, right?
can't
Because to
stop
that
the
business
concrete.
owner, that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you end up finding out all of these factors that come into play? Is
You
this
go talk to them one-on-one.
okay?
We had a coordinator that worked under the project manager that did exactly that. But the project manager and the two assistant project managers that were helping him, they knew everybody on that beach. And 2 or 3 weeks before they were going to be in an area, they would go down and knock on the door, introduce themselves, give them their card, and they would start to identify the timing of whatever their concerns or needs were, so that when we got there, it was pre-coordinated. And if they had something that didn't go like they thought it needed to, they had several phone numbers of the individuals that could fix it right now. Not,
Sure.
hey, let me check with so-and-so. These are the guys that are doing it right now.
Yeah.
The town and the county had public information officers, and that worked great for, mass information. But if one of your bulldozers just ran over my mailbox, I don't want it to take a week for you to get my mailbox up.
Yeah,
So,
the email from a
Right.
no reply email
Yes.
address isn't going to help me solve
So
this.
we had one-on-one relationships with all of those people. Our whole team did, and we just eliminated all of the frustration with the residents and businesses on the beach as best we could.
So why do that? In hindsight, and talking to you, it makes perfect sense, but I don't think that this is a common thing. So why do that? Does that come from past experience of having done a project like this and working with the community,
Well, I mean, we've been in business since 1989. I started this company in 1989, and there are a couple things that we concentrate on: customer service. And as part of that customer service, in that case, we're working for the county, right? Those are representatives of the citizens. So all of those citizens are also our customers.
Yeah.
So our job is customer service, right? I need to make sure if I have to take the end of your driveway out, I need to know when you're going to be here. Look, if you're going to be gone and you're a part-time resident, guess what? If it's possible, I'm going to be fixing your driveway in the summertime. But if we need to coordinate that and you get half a driveway and then we do the other half, it's all just part of it.
Yeah.
That's how we go about doing what we do. I mean, you stay in business for a long time by doing the right thing and doing the best you can at it.
Yeah.
For us, it's not about, could we make an extra $10,000 by just crowding it all through? I'm sure we could, but why upset all those people when they're already upset just by the nature of what's occurring? It's our job to make it less.
Yeah.
It's our job to make it as good as we can. And I think most of our clients know that's how we operate, which is why, 95% of all our work's for repeat clients.
Really? Okay. Nice. I mean, it makes a big difference. The last company I was at, big focus on customer service, and especially because we were at that point, we were a private company going against a real Goliath company that had been around for 60 plus years, and that was one of the main things that actually got us business. And, you know, when people don't have that person they can connect with, I mean, you end up becoming a faceless company, and people then move to people who will actually pay attention and help them out.
Well, you do business with people that you like. And so they know that we're here. They know that we're local. They know they can call us. They know that we'll take care of it. But it's not just the clients that we have that service to. It's our subcontractors who could also refer us. So, you know, we don't want to be known as this contractor that. We want to be known as the contractor that will do it. They'll get it done. They'll do it the right way. They'll do it, you know, honest, all those things. That's what we want to be known for. And I believe our clients and our subs and our employees and consultant partners, our architect and engineer partners, they all kind of, you see is what you get. I mean, and that goes from top down. I mean, it's a snowball effect of attitude and passion, I guess, for what we do, but also for the firm itself. And no one wants to walk around with their logo on their shirt and have bad looks to you, you know, or this one time. It's, you know, we'd rather it just be done the right way, and you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, you know? For sure. Well, and so you guys are hiring right now, right? Mm-hmm. Because like we were just talking about, you have apparently 400 new projects that just started.
There's a bunch coming in.
So how does it work in terms of people coming and working with you? I mean, what kind of positions do you guys have open, and what type of work do you guys need? You know, what type of roles do you need to fill right now with these new projects starting?
Let's talk about how we fill those roles before we talk about which ones we need.
Sure.
We have a thought process that we don't put two firsts on a job, right? If I have a first-time customer, we're not going to put a first-time new hire on that job.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take a customer, an existing project manager or senior PM as a mentor, depending on what level of new hire we have. Mm-hmm. And then we put with them somebody to learn not only how we do it, but the attitude that we do it with, the culture we do it in, because we really do put the customer and the work product and your coworker first. So if you're just a grouch to be around all the time, but you build a perfect job, you're not for us.
Yeah.
You can't stay here. Now, if you want to come and take what is a complicated industry that sometimes gets difficult projects and know that you've got an entire team from top to bottom that's working for a common goal to make everybody's life easier and give the owner what they bought, we're probably for you. We're right now looking for project managers, and those would work under our existing senior project managers. We're also looking for assistant project managers to partner with our some of our existing PMs, engineers, interns. We do an intern program with FGCU. We also do intern program with some of the technical schools in town.
Nice.
To have entry-level folks there, but we're looking for right now, we're looking for somebody in accounting. We're looking for a superintendent. We're looking for assistant superintendent. Looking for a seasoned estimator, you know, as far as construction estimating, preferably with K-12 or higher ed background, because as in any industry, right, you get down into the real details of it. Okay, there's an estimator, and they say, okay, well, what do you specialize in? Oh, I've done a majority of my estimating on industrial. Okay, I've done most of mine on K-12. Okay, but it really does get in that much detail. So that's we're looking for a lot of positions right now, but you know, a lot of people in our industry are looking for the same thing. So
sure,
there's a heck of a labor shortage. I read something the other day that the government said the labor market is fully saturated. So that's what we're seeing reflected in when we're looking for more. You know, we're blessed enough to live in part of the country that continues to grow and grow to where you may see some exodus in other parts of the country for whatever reason. So, you know, it's compounding the labor problem.
Yeah.
And then you take the supply chain issues on top of that. You know, it's interesting time right now.
Interesting to manage through. Well, and so are people moving down from other parts of the country to work with you guys?
Either that or to just get away from that crowded, convoluted area. A lot of times, you know, during this whole pandemic 2 years, we've just seen a flood of folks coming down, either moving their entire office down here. And when you say work with us, not necessarily coworkers, but clients. We've gained new clients because they're moving their whole kit and caboodle down here. They want to get out of the Chicagos, the New Yorks, the New Jerseys. They want to be down here in the sunshine. If they're going to be doing a Teams meeting anyway, why not look at a palm tree versus an evergreen with snow on it? I mean, why not? So that's occurring. So we've gotten a plethora of new clients that way.
Okay.
And then you've got the influx of folks that come down, whether it's, students, whether it's people whose grandparents live down here, whose parents are down here. They come down to visit, they kind of hang out, and then they realize, oh, there is stuff for me to do. There's construction going on everywhere. And so that kind of helps as well. So we do get a little bit of both. And then you've got subcontractors who are, referring people to us that may not have a spot at their firm, but, referring them to us. So it's kind of a mix of different things.
Well, you said something when we were talking on the phone before this about the types of, lifestyles that some of these roles have you put in with other companies where you're a project manager, but you're away from home for 6 months or, 2 years, something like that. I mean, you said something interesting about how you guys are different there. I mean, how do you guys solve that issue for some of these different roles?
So our firm is licensed to do work in the state of Florida. So we keep our boundaries awfully close. I-4 down. We have an office in Marathon, Florida also, and we're doing work down there. But we don't go anywhere north of I-4. We don't go over to the East Coast. That's saturated with those folks, and we'll let them have that.
Yeah.
We kind of stay with around our place. But the benefit I feel like of working for Chris-Tel, whether you're a senior PM, a PM, a superintendent, especially, because those are the guys that are on site every single day, boots on the ground, 100% of the time. They're there managing that job, right? I've heard, guys who, either send their resume or want to talk to me. They're saying, I don't want to move to Oklahoma. I don't want to move to Minnesota. I don't want to move to South Carolina for 18 months to 2 years, because these are bigger firms that have licensure to do work in other states. I don't know if anyone's familiar, but Florida is its own entity. GC licenses in Florida are not reciprocal with any other state, nor any other state can you work in Florida unless you have a Florida GC license. It is its own little oddball thing because we've got the wind, the environment, all of those different things. Sure. It's just Florida is its own thing. So we've got firms that do have licensure in other states that will send their superintendents away from their 2 twin little boys or their wife who's pregnant or whatever for 18 months to 2 years to build, a hospital or an office park somewhere else, which that's great for his experience. But what's he giving up or what's she giving up? So we're finding that a lot of folks, especially with the pandemic, they don't want to be traveling all the time. They want to be close to home. There are more things that are important to them they've found. So, and that is one, I think, aspect that I feel is attractive Chris-Tel brings is that we're not going to make you, when we say travel, I mean, we might make you go to Naples. You could go to DeSoto County. Ugh. Heck, you might even have to go to Marathon. I mean, my goodness, like it's not going to be, hey, go out to, Timbuktu, Iowa and build this, industrial warehouse for 2.5 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We just don't do that. So we're pretty content. There's enough work, I think, around here to go around. Where we don't need to travel into those other states. We have clients that come down here from those other states, but the construction is always taking place here. So that is I think, is attractive to some people that have just they're tired. Been traveling superintendents. We actually have some guys that work with us now that have traveled overseas and have done that time after time after time. Again, seen some really cool stuff, been exposed to some really cool projects in different countries and learned a bunch of languages, but they're tired. They want to stay here. Their wife is here, their family's here, whatever, their husband or whatever. So I think that's kind of attractive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and if you're a young person in that position, maybe it's not such a big deal and you're getting the experience. You can go out to wherever,
absolutely,
live 2 years out on the road, be a road warrior, come home whenever you need to. But now I have a 6-month-old daughter and I can imagine what it would be like.
It takes a toll.
Right.
Yeah, what it would be like to be gone for 2 years.
And not only on your family, but that relationship between you and your spouse. I mean, that's, it's like being a military spouse.
Yeah.
You're deployed for however long, and that's not everybody can do that. So that's one thing that I feel like people really are appreciative of hearing and knowing that that's not going to occur. Once this job is over, we're not going to send you. We're going to find something that's you can sleep in your own bed every night,
Yeah.
Unless you're in the marathon office, then maybe.
Well, you can live there, but
Yeah.
there's a
you
lot
would force people to have to be in
I'll
the
have
Florida
to stay in the
Keys.
Keys. I know. But
Disgusting.
there are different niches all in construction, and we've talked about that. There are companies that just chase big boxes, right? Whether it's a Target or a Costco or a Walmart or a Publix or a cash and carry, whatever it is, and they go wherever that franchise puts in a store, and their teams are expected to go. We're not like that. We're more of we've got a really wide range of experience. So what we want to concentrate on is knowing and understanding our market really well, and being the best in that market, whatever your construction need is. I don't want to be the best Walmart builder in the United States of America, right? I want to be the best builder in Southwest Florida and in the Florida Keys, and I want to be able, as you as a client come to me, say, I really like that team I had last time. Can I have the same one? Sure, you can have the same one. There you go. Or I have a guy that lives in Rotunda, and the project is a big renovation on Boca Grande, and he doesn't have to drive to Naples every day to work because we pay attention to where he lives and say, hey, let's make your life easy, and you can do this job right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We care about those employees and their quality of life because, every year we do our Christmas party, and we want all of the spouses there. We want them to know all of the team members that their spouse goes to work with every day. Because let's face it, sometimes you come home and you grumble about the day you had or the blah, 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 so-and-so on the job. We want that spouse to know, honey, I'm sorry you had a bad day, but that guy's really not that bad, remember? Or, no, that's not. We want that understanding when they get home. We want them to know who we are as a company and everybody in it from top to bottom.
Yeah.
That's an organization we're trying to build.
Well, and this is a privately owned company, right?
Correct.
Okay. And are a lot of the competitors you're going against, are they private equity or public companies?
It depends. Some of them are large private. Some of them are owned by conglomerates overseas. Some of them are public. It's just a whole bunch of different, but we're privately held, but we are right now transitioning through the process, and it'll be a long process, but we started a couple of years ago to be employee owned.
Nice.
So
okay.
there aren't many contracting companies, GC, CMs, any of that are employee owned.
Well, can I ask, so, I worked, the last company I worked at, it was very much similar approach to what you guys look at of, you got to take care of your employees, make sure that they're taken care of, then their spouses understand what's going on when you got to, send them out to Vegas for the next day to go work with a customer at their hangar, that you got to do what you got to do. But at the end of the day, it's a strong company, and it showed at the Christmas party. But that also flowed out to the customers. Like they understood, they can feel that,
absolutely,
that difference. And it makes all the difference. But now, since you guys already have that, what is the benefit of going to an employee-owned business? How does that does it enhance that even more? What was the thought behind moving to an employee-owned business?
Well, there's a couple of different thoughts behind it. Number one, when I started it, right, I'm not going to live forever. So what's the exit strategy, right? There are a lot of companies that have just sold out. Well, that doesn't appeal to me because I've got employees that have been there, like I said, this is our 33rd year. So I've got employees that have been there over 30. To me, if I would have been the guy there for 30 years and that happened, yes, I got paid to be there. I did all those things, but it's a little bit of slap in the face.
Yeah.
So what is a good strategy for that? Okay. So to me, I personally feel if I worked for somewhere my whole career, I would want an investment in that business to where when I got ready to retire, it would give me back something and that I could now pass on to the next person that wants to put their career there. Yeah. So the loyalty and, one thing about really good, smart self-starter people is if you don't give them opportunity to grow, I assure you they'll self-start in a different direction. They
Yeah.
just won't be working for you anymore.
They'll go somewhere else.
Absolutely they would. Why wouldn't they? So I think our ESOP helps motivate that too, because the more it's your company and the longer you're here and the more shares you achieve of it, the more benefit to you in the end. You are essentially working for yourself in an organization that's large enough that it would take decades and decades if you started from scratch. And, I've said to people before, I would hate to be starting from scratch now. 33 years ago, I didn't know what I didn't know. So, I don't know that knowing what I know now, I would have done it. And I don't know that right now the opportunity is the same because risk is different.
Sure.
Your insurance companies, your bonding companies, all of the people that have to say, yes, I will financially back and insure and guarantee you, they're all risk adverse too. They don't want the risk. So
Sure.
a startup is harder.
Yeah.
To where right now, we're an ongoing entity as all of the individuals become individual owners of that company. It's ongoing, it's secure, it's stable. All those relationships are there and have been cemented over the last 25 years. It's a good place to build your career. And when you leave, your retirement will already be built.
Yeah.
And you get to transfer that to somebody else that's now building their career.
Yeah.
That's why you hear us talk. Look, we're in the intern programs for the college. We want young people, but we want you to be customer oriented, product oriented, and we want you to want to be here. We have an entire program and hierarchy of moving up through our company that is pre-printed, and it's just out there. You do these things, you'll move from superintendent 1 to superintendent 2. You do these things, you'll move to a senior super. That's just the progression. And then part of that is find somebody to train them to do your job so you don't have to do it and you can do the next job.
Yep.
So, it's win-win all the way around. I've probably got another 10 or so years, and then it'll be up to the younger people. They can carry the torch, but I want them to be secure. That way they know where their future is if they want to do it too. Because it's not like something's going to change when I turn 65. Oh my gosh, she's going to sell it. No, that's already been predetermined to what we're doing. So you can say, hey, I'm going to do this, and this is what I'm going to get when it comes time, and I'm going to transfer that over to somebody younger than me. And, it's a good career path, I think, for everybody.
Yeah, well, and it gets people more bought in, I think, because just speaking from, I'm 29, just speaking from somebody younger that's going through the process of starting my own business about a year ago and going through all this. And part of the reason why I left was I was looking for something that I could own, that I could be a part of an ownership. I'm not like CEO guy. I need to be my own boss. And like every time I hear that, I'm like, that sounds like the worst reason to go do all of this stuff that comes with starting a business. I mean, it's not nearly as easy as I thought it would be, but I wanted to own something. I wanted to have something I could have some pride in and have a reason to make it better and put the time in and take care of customers and do all that stuff. And I just felt like, when we didn't have that anymore, I don't know, I got apathetic, didn't really feel like being there anymore. And you can make some good money being apathetic. You can, oh yeah, of course, a little hand waving, and then people just pay you and they don't even know what you're working on. But I was just, had a moment driving one day where I was like, if you don't leave and go start your own thing or work for somebody else that means something, like, man, you're going to have a weird life. Like it's not going to be good. You're not going to enjoy it. So, hey, this is sheer madness starting a business, but I feel like I own something, and that's important. So it's cool that you're actually making the effort to give people that ability, because it's not easy to find. No. It's really hard to find.
I think most good quality individuals that want to have a career, not just a job, want to work with a purpose. right?
Yeah.
I want to have a purpose in what I do every day. That purpose may be to train younger people. It may be to have, great customer relations. It may be to build the best product we can possibly build. But in that purpose is rarely, I want to be the richest guy in the world. Now, everybody needs to get paid for what they do, right? You got a family to support. You got things to do. But if you're really good at what you do, you will make plenty enough to do that and be the top earner in that group of, whatever your job task is. But just the money without the purpose pretty soon just becomes a job. And then you get I think you even get more, you get less motivated to take care of the customer or because it's all just money driven, and that is a terrible place to be.
Oh yeah. Agreed. Well, and so guys, as we're kind of wrapping this up, what are some of the projects? So I know we touched on them a little bit, but if we can cover so people that are listening know, what are some of the projects that you've started now, and where is the company heading?
Well, let's start with the project. So
yeah, I know the second question is a pretty wide open question.
Yeah. We're doing projects, everything from independent living to multifamily. There's a huge
education
thing
parks.
coming now as far as a wave in the marketplace. You say, where are all these apartments coming from? But we're not seeing that slow down.
No.
Molly gets probably a call or two a week for multifamily. You've got a bunch of your institutional investors and stuff that are now have been for a while in the middle of all that, where they flip out of them and, cash out. But we're seeing the multifamily, we're seeing the independent living, we're seeing all of the K-12, we're seeing the college, we're doing stuff for the counties and the cities, and we're doing marinas and just all different kinds of stuff. One of the newest models I've seen come about lately is there's a company that is talking to us about building single family homes on a large piece of land. So they're putting, standard subdivision, but the homes are not for sale. They're only for rent. And they're 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom.
And these are 350 to 375 units in this area.
Mm-hmm.
And they're
renting
3 and 4 bedroom, 2,400 square feet.
Right.
Decent,
nice single family homes, only for rent.
But it's rent.
And I was curious and asked the owner, I said, do you guys get these all together, get them leased up and flip them? Oh, absolutely not. We keep them and hold them from now on. We've never sold any deals. That's their business model. But that was the first time that, as a company, I'd ran up and seen that.
And it's a neighborhood, but they have like a storage, you store it place on site for those residents. Amenities just like you would in any other neighborhood, but they are all rentals. No, it's not rent to own. It's all rentals.
It's straight rent.
Wow. So I'm curious, I talked to somebody else on this podcast about this, but what do you think that has, what kind of impact does that have on the future of home ownership down here?
I don't know. You've got, I think you have a certain group of people that want to own, and you have other group of people that want to rent and don't want to be bothered with ownership.
Sure.
I fall into hey, I want the equity. If I'm paying for it, I want
Me
it.
too.
But I'm not sure everybody does. It must work for them. They're spending millions of dollars to do it.
Well, and you also
and
have
it's their
people
model.
that may not be able to, in the rules and regulations today, may not be able to buy a house. Either they don't have the down payment, or they don't have, their credit isn't stellar, or they just don't have enough money saved. They can rent for 2 or 3 years, get that money saved up, and then go and put that money down and gain that equity. But, some people too, I think, are just looking at home prices, and it scares them, because they don't want to be another 2006 where you're paying through the nose for a house thinking you got a great deal. And then 2 years later, you're underwater and you're never going to get out of that. So I think that scares some people. I think some people are gun shy. People up north are not. They come down here, they pay cash, 20-30% over asking, sight unseen. And it's easy for them because let's buy the,
it's
but
a crazy
then
marketplace.
The folks that are down here are thinking, well, there's no way my house is worth that, or there's no way my land is worth that. And right now it is. Is it ghost equity? Is it real equity? I don't know. I guess we'll see here in a little bit. But this concept is interesting. And once, we talked, to the owner about it, one of the questions, like Howard said, he said, well, how long, you're just going to flip it? Because that's normally what you would think. No, they own it.
They've never flipped out of one.
They keep it. So it's like, well, they're obviously not, they're going to be financing is going to be just fine, So it's things like that you, in this market and in today's, the ideas and the things that are developing that you thought would never, ever come to fruition, it changed it. So look, we're going to kind of roll with those punches and kind of see how we can fit into that. But yeah, like Howard said, it's industrial, it's multifamily, independent living, educational, parks and rec, government entities, private, big renovation. I mean, there's a lot, we have a lot starting. We're starting the same amount of work in May that we did all of last year. So that's something I don't think we'd ever think we'd say, but we're saying it. So it's an interesting time for sure. We've got, lots of things, down the line coming up too, because again, they're just, whenever they're started, we've been awarded recently 4 or 5 different projects for government entities that we were recently awarded. So those are coming down the pike. So there's a lot of work out there. So we have a lot of it. So it's exciting.
It is exciting. So that brings us to your last question, right?
Where do you go from here?
The future of the company. Look, the strength in our company is the people, right, that are inside the company. So where do we go from here? We try to collect and attract and employ more of those same kind of people, because we can only teach you one thing, and that's skills. You have to bring everything else to us. You have to bring the integrity. You have to bring the honesty. You have to bring everything that makes you the kind of person that, as a company, we want you in front of our client. So you have to bring that. If you have a less ability, we'll teach you that. Mm-hmm. We'll send you to school. We'll pay for your schooling. We'll do whatever it is for you to grow into a good construction professional, as long as you have the other parts, but you have to bring those. Yeah. So, where does that leave us in the future? There are people like that out there, and we hope to attract a bunch of them. We hope that the benefits that we offer, we didn't really hit on that. We pay for the employees' insurance, but we pay for half their family's insurance too, for health insurance. So we try to offer benefits that are the top of our market in our industry, because we want the very best people we can find. And we want you to treat our customers like they're the most important people to you, because they are the most important to us, as a company. And we want the kind of people that do that. And then we want people that understand the quality of the work product. So, you say, where do we go? That's where we go. We continue to attract that. The customers, you alluded to it. Customers pick up on that. We haven't had a problem with customers. The single largest problem is the right workforce, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Nice. Okay, cool. Well, guys, where can people find you and get in touch with you and hopefully apply for some jobs?
Well, we are all over social media. Chris-Tel Construction. We have an office in near downtown. We also have an office in Marathon. But easiest way, I would think, is call the office or visit our website, www.christelconstruction.com. Visit our social media and go from there.
Cool. And I'll add all that stuff in the show notes as well. But before we wrap this up, you guys have anything else that you want to add?
Well, just, if you're one of those people and you think you fit that bill, please call us. We've got plenty of opportunity for you.
Cool. All right.
Looking forward to meeting them.
Yeah, for sure.
And thank you for having us today and letting us talk about all the things, the needs that we have, and the interesting things going on in the construction industry here in Southwest Florida right now.
Thanks for coming in and doing this. I appreciate it, because, I like talking to people that run businesses the way that you guys run it, because not a lot of people have this mentality around the customer service, and it kind of shows. If you've been in business for 33 years and you're taking on these massive, massive projects, which I look at, we were talking about it before, I don't even know where you would begin to start on a project like this. So having a company that can actually pull this stuff off and obviously do it well enough that they keep asking you to do more and more of them, it's cool. So thanks for sharing this stuff with us. But All right.
Certainly.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
This episode is brought to you by Southwest Florida Podcast. If you're a business in Southwest Florida and you want to use a podcast to grow your business, scan the QR code on your screen or visit the link in the show notes at www.swflpodcast.com.